I have to walk backwards like this to make sure I don't accidentally film anything that's not allowed. I just want to get a little closer. I won't step on the ground, though, because who knows, there might be landmines there. But from here you can see some of the ruined buildings on the outskirts of Damascus. Many have been literally reduced to rubble, others are in ruins. All the buildings you can see here were damaged during the war by all the bombings, explosions and combat fire. This used to be a residential neighborhood, and now it's gone. Some buildings have just been reduced completely to dust, and that is what war did to Syria. No matter where I go in Syria, I haven't seen a single patch of land that you could possibly say was left untouched by the war. Along the road to Damascus, the roadside is littered with damaged and burnt vehicles, both military and civilian. The checkpoints are heavily armed. I even saw a fully operational anti-aircraft gun at one. See this big gun? What they did is they put an artillery cannon on this old Toyota Land Cruiser. And that is the kind of a gun that can shoot down planes. Just like that. Just look at this. Mind-blowing. We've been driving for about 30 miles and haven't seen a single intact building, only an endless row of destroyed and abandoned ones. And then completely out of nowhere, I saw a carpet sale by the road. Of course, carpets are an essential part of local lifestyle, but my only question is who's buying them here now? The highway's almost empty. People, just look at the euphoria that swept across Syria when the regime fell and Bashar al-Assad fled the country. People were celebrating, full of hope for a better new life. Today we'll show you what years of war did to the country. We'll meet a family where children don't have a childhood and have to work for scraps of food. We'll visit the infamous Sednaya Prison, where crowds of people keep coming to search for their family members incarcerated years ago. We'll also see how the ancient town of Maaloula survived the terrorists. This is Alex Pototsky reporting for the People channel. On December 8, 2024, the Assad regime fell. The opposition forces captured the Sednaya prison and freed thousands of inmates. A death camp, a torture prison, a human slaughterhouse. That's what this prison has been called both in Syria and beyond. This is the main entrance to Sednaya, and as you can see, everything's damaged. There was some serious fighting here. If you look at this wall, there's still the old Syrian flag painted on it. Nowadays, they're repainting these flags in many places, replacing the red stripe on top with a green one. All these people are now searching for their relatives among the prisoners. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. This is the door to get inside the prison, with the bars protecting it. We're going to go inside now, and we're going to see what's happening inside. The guides took me to the underground level, and at some point we found a room full of odd stuff. Turns out it was an execution chamber. It looks like they might have hanged people here. So this rope was used for hanging people? Yes. This was utterly and completely unsettling. When I only began to imagine how many people were killed here, it sends shivers down my spine. Then the armed men in face masks told us we shouldn't be here. On the ground level, we found many empty rooms, all the doors open, everything inside tossed and broken. There's some kind of a cage here. It was probably used to keep the new arrivals before they were sorted into cells. So as you can see, the cage was probably heavily overcrowded. And people could only stand here. I mean, in general, there's room to sit down or even lie down probably. But if this cage was full of people, they wouldn't be able to do anything but stand. It's gruesome. Different cells accommodated different numbers of people, but no one ever cared about prisoners having some space. They just packed them full and couldn't care less. As survivors and former inmates reported, a tiny cell that measured 10 by 12 feet usually had about 30 people inside. A 16 by 22 foot cell would have about 50 people in it. Here's another wing. The cells are different here.
Camera. Is it okay if we pass? Yeah, thank you. Shukran.
They are bigger, as you can see.
Camera.
Steel doors reinforced with bars. There's a tiny window, and it's even hard to imagine how they passed food through it. Of course, a cell like this was also cramped. You can still see some food on the floor, some rotten tomatoes here. All the rags people had been using are also here on the floor. I can see some bowls on the floor. One still has some olives in it and some liquid, a lone shoe on the floor. There are no bunk beds you'd normally expect in a prison. Why bother? More people would fit in without them. The reason food is on the floor is not because the inmates left it like this behind. It's actually how they'd been fed. The staff simply threw food on the floor. If you're quick enough, you'd get a rotten tomato. People died here not only from torture, but of starvation and lack of basic medical care. Located about 19 miles north of Damascus, Sednaya has been in use since 1987. It was originally built for Islamist extremists, but in the early 2000s it was a place where numerous political dissidents and pretty much anyone who opposed the regime were thrown and disappeared without a trace. Human rights groups and NGOs were not allowed to enter, so the only available information came from the rare survivors' testimonies. The prison perimeter was mined with anti-tank and anti-personnel explosives. It held between 10,000 and 20,000 prisoners, including women and children. To make it worse, the place was said to be as quiet as a grave because inmates weren't allowed to make a sound, let alone talk. They were kept in complete darkness and led through the halls blindfolded. Basically, this was not a correctional facility. It was a punitive one. Prisoners were tortured, beaten, and executed in the prison's underground tunnels. According to the Association of Detainees and the Missing in Sednaya Prison, 30,000 to 35,000 people died in its cells between 2011 and 2018, and another 500 were tortured and killed between 2018 and 2022. Bodies weren't returned to families. They were kept in makeshift morgues, the so-called salt rooms, filled with road de-icing chemicals before being dumped into mass graves outside. Some reports claimed the prison had even built its own crematorium. So, this is the Sednaya compound. You can see some ambulance vans parked, taxi cabs, and even some other cars. So if you're wondering why it's so crowded here, well, first of all, the ambulances are here to transport prisoners in critical condition, those who are barely alive. The taxis and other vehicles are here because hundreds of people keep coming here searching for their brothers, fathers, and other family members who were or might have been kept here. There are several prisons like this in Syria, but Sednaya was the worst. Dissidents were arrested and kept here for decades. Some people had been locked up in here for 20, even 30 years with no contact with their families. Relatives did not know if they were still alive, only that they might be. So when Sednaya's prisoners were finally freed, thousands of Syrians flocked here, hoping to find their loved ones among them. These are the flyers for some of the still missing persons put up by their families on the Sednaya gates, with their photos and the families' contacts. These are some of the people who are still missing, and no one knows where they are. Families can only assume that they might have ended up in Sednaya. And you know what? Some of them have been missing since 2011. As anti-government protests keep erupting in Syria, the crackdown intensified. Among those who freed Sednaya from the opposition forces was the country's oldest political prisoner, Ragid Ahmed al-Tatari, a Syrian Air Force pilot. He was 27 when he refused to bomb his hometown of Hama for rebelling against the regime of Hafez al-Assad, Bashar's father. Ragid spent 43 years behind bars. Sednaya was the last prison he'd been moved to, and on December 2024, he walked These days, people keep searching for their relatives in any way they can. So there are still some people in here? Yes, there are. Walking through the prison's endless hallways, we kept crossing paths with all sorts of people. Opposition fighters with guns, foreign reporters, teenagers who have found a way of getting everywhere, and ordinary Syrians searching for their family members, wondering what if they're too weak and broken to walk out on their own and are still here, waiting for help. This woman is still looking for her son. She knows he was taken to Sednaya.
He didn't do anything wrong. He worked at a soap factory. He was taken right from his workshop.
Her son Mohammed was accused of terrorism. She shows his picture in her phone. He was so young then. It's hard to imagine how 10 years in Sednaya might have changed him. Today he'd be 39.
He's got his daughter's name tattooed on his arm. He has 4 children in total.
The woman shows everyone his photograph and hands out her contact details. That's her last thread of hope. What if it leads to her son? Over here, people are sifting through surviving paperwork. They're searching for information too, hoping to see the names of their loved ones somewhere finally. So I've been warned by the guys accompanying me not to touch anything, not even the doors. Because this place, as they explained, is crawling with infection. TB, typhus, and God knows what else. So, sick people here just never got any kind of treatment.
Поэтому они вот просят ничего не трогать.
And yes, without warm clothes or blankets, this prison is freezing cold in winter. I'm wearing a sweater and hat now, but my hands are still numb. And people lived like this for years on bare concrete floors with no heating. Just absolutely nothing. On December 8th, 2024, about 2,000 prisoners were released from the Sednaya, though the prison's capacity was 11,000. The rest died from torture, disease, or were executed. Now, Sednaya's former prison staff are on Syria's most wanted list, second only to Bashar al-Assad's family. We made a stop at a grocery market in Damascus to see how the city is managing to survive after the devastating war and a regime change, despite all the hardships Syrians have endured. This is the Syrian capital's largest market, and it functions mostly as a wholesale hub. There are stacks of crates and bags of everything imaginable, men pushing carts around as they dodge vans and trucks. But hey, there's even a horse-drawn cart. Every stall is equipped with scales and cash-counting machines. The exchange rate is insane, 13,000 Syrian pounds per $1. So, people carry brick-thick wads of cash. Yet the business is slow, and you won't see haggling crowds you'd normally see at Middle Eastern bazaars. Still, for many working here is a real lifeline. Both kids and adults work here. Ahmed has 4 children, but his salary is so small, it wouldn't even sustain a single person. I'm a teacher of Arabic. It's fine, but it pays pennies. I'm paid $20 a month, and my family needs so much more, at least 300 or 400. So I had to take this second job as a market vendor to feed my family. Of course, life didn't change overnight after the regime fell, but people are so relieved the war is finally over that they're willing to endure certain hardships a little longer. They believe things will improve eventually. The market has reopened recently, so things aren't very well organized yet. There's some disorder and confusion. War doesn't exactly foster stability. This is Syria's major food market, and it has suffered particularly badly. The war affects everything, especially a war that lasts this long. It has affected my family too, because there was very little work. Kids and teenagers at the market haul loaded carts alongside adults. Despite all the hard work, they are remarkably cheerful and happy to pose for a camera. Ismail is 13. He's been working here as a porter for several months. His family lives in a village not far from Damascus. Each morning he travels for 2 hours to get here, first on foot, then he hitchhikes. And yet he's still such an open, smiling, and kind kid, even though he's never known life without war, gunfire, or bombings. Ismail has agreed to come with us after he's finished at the market. He invited us to visit his family, and we'd love to see them and how they live. But, of course, we have to do it properly. First, we have to go to the ministry again and inform them where we'd like to go. If they approve, we're good. If they say it's too dangerous, we cannot go. But Ismail is already with us. The market, with its abundance, all the fruits and veggies, made me briefly forget about the war. But the reminders are everywhere. Here's a car covered with bullet holes. Here's one completely burnt down. On my way to the ministry, my driver Alla and local guide Taser tried to talk me out of it. It is still dangerous outside the city. There are landmines everywhere, and armed patrols treat everyone with suspicion. Getting the permit took forever, but we finally got the green light. We had to leave Damascus. Out here, no one can guarantee our safety. We're going to go at our own risk and peril. Ismail is in the back seat now, telling the driver which roads are safer. Of course, there is devastation just everywhere, but life goes on. Oh, I can hear gunfire. Life goes on even when there's shooting. This is a minor road. There are very few cars on it. As we're passing by one, I can't help but notice it's missing a back door. The roadside showcases Syria's new normal ruins of abandoned buildings. Now we've got to switch roads. The guide and Ismail are arguing. Ismail insists one road is safer, while the guide and the driver prefer another way. So we've got this debate going on in the car. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting quietly, hoping nothing happens to us. I mean, sure, I am the idiot who pushed for this trip, but I'd really hate for my local team to get hurt. I would never forgive myself if anything happened to this great kid because of me. So it just hit me that he's only 13, and the war started in 2011. So he was born during the war, a true child of war. He's never even known anything else or seen anything beyond this conflict. We made it to our destination without any incident. Ismail's parents were quite surprised. They did not expect any strangers to show up with their son, but when they learned who we were, they immediately welcomed us in the best of Syrian traditions. Obviously, the family is struggling. Life is particularly hard in villages as opposed to a big city. Yet, they still honor the tradition of offering guests a treat. Right now, they're serving us tea. And it is exactly what I need right now. Hot tea in this chilly weather. Oh, and it's incredibly sweet. Before the war, guests like us would be offered fruit, sweets, and fresh juice. Hosts would then invite us for lunch, maybe even dinner. Syrian tradition dictated offering travelers lodging or even money if the family was wealthy. This was the local standard. But the war has changed everything. Sweet tea is all Ismail's parents could offer. So, as we sat down to drink tea, the head of the family apologized for not having a proper table to place before us, something to put our glasses on, or just any other kind of objects. Things like this just keep reminding me of how much the local people are struggling. But they're also creative and optimistic. Ismail's father stepped away, grabbed a plastic bucket, and now we're using it as a table. Welcome to Syria. These are some of the most hospitable, kind people you'll ever meet. This is what I've witnessed during my visit here. Thank you. Hear that? That's gunfire. Maybe celebratory, maybe not. Really close. You can hear gunfire here all the time while children play and families live their lives. No one even flinches. They're just so accustomed to it. It's a part of their daily lives now. Sultan Ismail's father told me what his family has been through. He had a total of 6 children, but 2 daughters died in infancy. One didn't survive a fire when she was 6 months old, and the younger one succumbed to starvation and cold. The entire family had to fight for survival. During the war, we lived in just 2 rooms of our house, because the rest were looted and destroyed. I had a tent set up nearby to have more room. In 2018, we slowly began building a new home. The father is helped by his sons. Besides Ismail, there's 17-year-old Hassan and 15-year-old Hussein. They all work together as porters at the market. The boys once attended madrasa, a religious school. But the family could no longer afford tuition, and now everyone works. My sons work, but we still barely make ends meet. On some days, they earn something. On others, they don't. It's not enough for proper food. We have some, but very, very little. In addition to money for food, they need funds to finish building their home. Right now, it's just a box with bare concrete walls and a ceiling. There are no doors even. No one knows how many years it'll take to turn this into a proper home. To finish it, I need about $80,000. We need to do the plumbing, electricity, doors, and paint everything. Then a kitchen, toilet, shower, all the kitchen appliances, then furniture, household appliances. Everything's a struggle now, even having water or electricity. Sultan's brother next door has a well with an electric pump that fills a water tank for Sultan's family. But electricity goes on for only about 30 minutes at a time, once or twice daily. So someone must always be around in case it goes on. If they miss that half-hour window, there'll be no water for their family. They use this water tank for everything, including cooking and washing. So this is the shower. Here's a curtain for privacy when someone's in. You go in, grab a basin and a water dipper, and pour water over yourself. There's some shampoo and cleaning products here. In summer, it works just fine because it's hot, and you don't really need hot water to wash up. But in winter, this turns into a problem. They need to heat water each time. For a big family, that means tons of water and firewood, and taking a proper shower becomes an epic challenge. The household is run by Khaldia, Sultan's wife. Raising children in absence of basic amenities is tough, especially when you never know if you'll have anything to cook for dinner.
I cook simple food just like in any other family. I take rice and mix it with other ingredients, or sometimes instead of rice, I use lentils or pasta. If we have any vegetables, I make a salad. Everything is so expensive that we can't afford to celebrate our children's birthday or even holidays.
So this is Khaldia's corner, the kitchen. There's a table, a gas canister, and this gas-powered stove. I mean, I don't think they use it much because gas is expensive. And, well, the family just has no money. Oh, it looks like the electricity came on. The bulb has started flickering. Here, they store, you know how some people make preserves for winter, like pickled tomatoes and cucumbers? So, here, they preserve olives. There are neat rows of jars with olives, and there are also jars with rice and some other stuff. I can see peas, salt, sugar, and vegetable oil. Basically, a normal kitchen, just with some local flavor. Pots and pans are hanging on the walls. I can't imagine how much time the lady of the house spends cleaning them, because with concrete floors and walls, dust is everywhere. Anyone who's done remodeling will understand. Compared to the other rooms, the kitchen feels almost cozy. The rest of the house is brutally austere. Also, it's colder inside the concrete structure than outdoors. A woven mat on the floor is for sitting on it, with mattresses piled in corners. This reminds me of the homes I've seen in a remote Afghanistan province where people live in almost identical conditions. So, let's see what they've got in this room. There's a curtain on the wall for decorative purposes. Well, there's no actual window behind it. They've just hung it to cover the bare wall. So, let me check that real quick. Yeah, that's right. Definitely no window. Then there's a clock and some photos, most likely of family members. Then there's this small wall niche made likely for electrical sockets. But now it holds just some pills. There are also plastic chairs, but the most interesting thing is this old traditional stove with its chimney going through the ceiling, because it's vital during the cold season. And in moments like this, they just keep heating it up, throwing in wood, and it keeps everyone, including the room, warm. There's also a metal table. Looks like it's been salvaged from somewhere. And the most expensive thing the family owns is this Super TV set. Though they probably rarely watch it, with just 1 hour of electricity daily.
На час в день в общей сложности.
When you see all this, it's hard to believe Syria was ever different. Take Damascus, one of the planet's oldest cities, founded long before Christianity appeared. Luckily, its UNESCO-listed old quarter survived the war remarkably intact, but not the suburbs, which were pretty much obliterated. Syria seems small compared to neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia or Iraq. With an area of 71,500 square miles, it is comparable to Washington, D.C. in size. Its population of 23 million is predominantly Arab, with Armenian, Kurdish, and Jewish minorities. Before I came here, as I followed the war in Syria between Islamist factions on the news, I had an impression that it was a 100% Muslim nation. But in reality, I saw with my own eyes that it is a multi-religious society where Christians, Muslims, and even Jews coexist. Walking the street, I noticed a shop window that perfectly showcases what I am seeing here. So, a Christian icon right next to Quranic verses, the sacred paraphernalia of two faiths sharing one display. And that, my friends, is Syria's true beauty.
Круто. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Just 35 miles northeast of Damascus in the mountains lies the Christian town of Maaloula, one of the oldest Christian settlements dating back 2,000 years. They still speak a version of the language believed to have been spoken by Jesus Christ himself. In 2013, Maaloula was captured by terrorists. We are now on our way there to see how this ancient town survived both the war and the occupation by terrorists. We were about to hit the road again today, but we're nearly out of gas, and we've been driving all over Damascus trying to get some. Gas stations are empty, while the black market prices are just absolutely insane. The dollar to pound exchange rate keeps fluctuating wildly, and the inflation is brutal. When I arrived, they gave 14,000 Syrian pounds for $1, and today it's just 8,000. All the while, the gas prices stayed absolutely the same. We've upgraded our car. The driver Alla taped a handwritten press sign on the windshield, joking that it might at least prevent us from getting shot immediately. Outside the city, no one is really ever safe. Sadly, our press status failed to help us get any gas quickly. The only option was to wait a few hours at the nearest station. So we found a functioning station that might still have gas. I can see cars that are already queuing up. So who knows how long the wait might be. That's why Alla is trying to cut a deal to get us some gas without having to wait out the whole line.
Без очереди.
Benzin, no benzin.
This is benzene.
Benzin, no.
Even these guys say there's no gas, although they seem to be driving alright. I probably got it somewhere. As for the black market...
Так вот, перекупы. Сейчас мы, когда подъезжали к перекупам, они просили...
When we checked it out earlier, the ask was 250,000 Syrian pounds for gas. That's about $30 for 2 gallons. And that is just absolutely insane. Alla and Taysir came back empty-handed. The armed opposition fighters turned them away. These fighters now patrol city gas stations maintaining order. So now our only option was making a deal with the black market sellers that operate on every street. They charge a lot more than gas stations. 250,000 Syrian pounds for 2 gallons. That's roughly $30, an average Syrian's monthly wage. While they were counting the bills, I learned something about the banknotes featuring Assad's portrait. Technically, they are still legal tender, but many Syrians now refuse to accept them. At the end of the day, we even got to haggle a little. Our press credentials got us a small discount, and we got our 2 gallons for 235,000 Syrian pounds, so we saved $2. But hey, every penny counts. $2 are almost 10% of an average local salary.
Сэкономил.
Living here must be incredibly hard.
Во-первых,
Obviously, because of the war and its aftermath. But then there's this economic crisis too. I can't fathom how people survive, and especially how they maintain optimism and positivity, because it's truly incredibly tough here. Maaloula is located on a mountain slope, and its streets feel a lot like hiking trails. There are 2 ancient Christian sanctuaries here, the Catholic monastery of St. Sergius and Bacchus, and the Greek Orthodox monastery of St. Thecla. Their history goes back to the 4th century AD, and they're greatly revered in the Christian world. Out of the town's 3,000 residents, 2/3 are Christians living in peace with Muslims. That is, they were until 2013, when Islamic terrorists seized this strategic high ground near the Damascus road. Most villagers fled. Those who stayed had to hide. Sadly, civilian casualties were unavoidable. The militants were ruthless, torching and looting homes. They destroyed all the hotels. Even the sacred sites weren't spared. They destroyed all the icons. What you see now are replicas. The occupation lasted 7 months. When people returned, they began rebuilding with the government's and volunteers' help. The terrorists kidnapped nuns from St. Thecla's convent and kept them hostage for 100 days before exchanging them for militants' relatives. Maaloula is still recovering. Residents keep coming back. Their main challenge are the same as all over the country, surviving this transitional period and getting their normal lives back. Currently, the top concern is to survive winter. The authorities provide some heating oil. We get about 13 gallons for a few months. But that is just not enough. That's why we harvest tree resin and firewood. But then if there are none, we just stay under blankets at home and pray to survive. Do you speak Aramaic? Yes, everyone here, Muslims and Christians alike, speak Aramaic and Arabic. There are 2 more villages nearby where people speak Aramaic to Christians as well. Could you say something in Aramaic? I said, you asked me, and I answered.
يعني أنت بتسألني وأنا عم جاوبك.